Space sustainability is a critical area gaining more attention. This week is World Space Week and the theme this year is focusing on sustainability in space. For more, joining us live is the Astronomer-at-large Fred Watson. Fred, really good to see you. Thank you for your time. We can barely get on top of sustainability issues here on Earth. What are we actually talking about when we look at issues surrounding space sustainability?
A number of different things, actually. I guess one of the critical issues in terms of the use of space is the risks associated with space debris collisions, because that could wipe out our access to space if you had problems with spacecraft colliding and generating what's called a Kessler Syndrome, where one collision generates another, which generates another, and you've got this sort of domino effect. But perhaps another aspect of it, which I think is particularly interesting, is the way that space launches have been made more sustainable in terms of the wastage that used to be involved. And love him or hate him, you have to take your hat off to Elon Musk in that regard, because the SpaceX company has perfected the reuse of the booster vehicles that launch satellites into space, reducing costs dramatically, and of course avoiding waste. You're not throwing away the boosters, some of which are worth $100 million. So it's a really good way of progressing sustainability.
Fred, we've seen some amazing images out this week. Just overnight, NASA released some composite images from the Webb telescope combined with X-ray vision. Tell us, what are we looking at here? We're putting the pictures up on the screen for our viewers. It all looks very magical.
It is. And what you're seeing is an infrared view of these objects. So it's a bit different from what we're used to seeing, which is pictures taken in visible light. Infrared is redder than red light, but it also is heat radiation. And so that allows you to sense the heat of stars, for example. Also, infrared shows up dust in things like galaxies. The one you're looking at now is called the Cartwheel Galaxy, very much shaped like a cartwheel. And we're seeing the evidence of a collision, perhaps 400 million years ago, with that evidence. Many of these images from the James Webb telescope have really taken our breath away, and there's more to come. And you and I talked not long ago about the DART mission, the mission to redirect an asteroid. The Webb telescope and the Hubble telescope have both actually sent us images from that collision. So we now know a lot more about it, thanks to the evidence that's come from these giant telescopes in space.
And those new images that you're talking about surrounding the DART operation, they show, as I understand it, this huge trail of dust and debris left by that operation, which was that NASA spacecraft making impact with an asteroid. I read, I think, that the trail was thought to be about 10,000 kilometres long. It's hard to wrap your mind around that. And it's only going to get longer, isn't it? Why is that?
Yes, that's right. So what's happened is that the collision, which took place on the 26th of September, when we whacked a half-ton spacecraft into a tiny asteroid, that produced a cloud of debris, which of course is lit up by the sun, and that's why we can see it. But the sun also has this radiation pressure and basically streams of particles that come from the sun, and they act almost as a wind that blows out the debris cloud into this long line of material. Exactly as you've said, it's thought to be 10,000 kilometres long, and it will get longer as the plume of material eventually disperses. But I'm sure we'll see some even more spectacular images of it before that time takes place.
And I was very glad to see that, as you promised me last time we spoke, the deliberate crash didn't pose any sort of danger to us here on Earth. But what are they doing next on that front? Are there any plans to try this again with another asteroid, or will they just monitor how this asteroid fares as a result for a while?
Yes, so the images we were just talking about, the new ones that show the dust cloud, they tell us a lot about the surface material on the asteroid. They tell us whether it's boulders of a large size or smaller ones. They tell us about the amount of energy that was released in the impact. But what really is, I guess, being eagerly anticipated by everyone is the evidence that will come from measuring the orbit of Dimorphos, the little asteroid that was clobbered, to see whether that orbit has changed, because that was the whole point of the experiment. We hope that the double asteroid redirection test, as DART stands for, will actually have done its job. And we learn just how hard you have to hit something to move it, which may one day be a very important thing to know in terms of avoiding a collision with the Earth.
Fred, just finally, right now, as I understand it, Jupiter is the closest to Earth that it's been in some 60 years or so. Is there still time for budding Aussie astronomers to get out their telescopes? What should they be looking for?
Yeah, it's unmissable, Ash. Jupiter is the brightest object in the evening sky after the sun and moon. It's high in the northwest in our skies, a brilliant object, well worth even binoculars will show you some of the moons of Jupiter. A telescope might show you the disk of the planet and the cloud belts. You're quite right; its distance is about 593 million kilometers as the crow flies, and that is its closest for some time. It's gradually now moving a little bit further away, but it's still well worth going out to have a look at.
Yeah, apparently it won't be this visible again until 2033. So anyone interested should get on with staying up perhaps and having a late night. It sounds like it'll be worth it. Fred Watson, always appreciate you making the time to speak with us. Thanks so much.
Many thanks, Ash.